Welcome to Lingua Latina Tutorials with Mr. K, Pensvm D. This video helps explain the new grammar and syntax found in Chapter 18 of the Lingua Latina per se Illustrata series. It is meant to accompany the Latine Disco text available from Focus Bookstore and the Pensvm D worksheets available from 50%latin.blogspot.com or christianlanguage.com. Let's get right into the text so I can point out the new features for this chapter. The first feature I want to point out is in line 21. And here we have the sentence quaeque syllaba vocalem habet, ergo numerus syllabarum et vocalium idem est. Okay, this word idem, this pronoun, which means the same. Okay, you see in the margin the dem is what means the same, and the e, the long I on the front, is actually a shortened form of is contracted into that long I. So really what this is dem, ea dem, and then id dem, meaning the same masculine thing, the same feminine thing, and the same neuter thing. So here we have each syllable has a vocalum, a vowel. Therefore the number of syllables and the number of vowels, idem est, is the same. These pronouns will decline in the same way, or virtually the same way, as is, ea, id. So with just a couple of small changes, so the declension, let's just take the declension of idem, for example. If we were going to decline idem, it would be nominative idem, accusative eundem instead of eumdem. So the M turns into an N in front of the D. So idem, eundem, eiusdem for the genitive, eidem for the dative, eodem for the ablative singular. And then for the plural, eidem or iidem, eosdem, eorundem for the genitive plural. So the M there also turns into an N. So eorundem, eisdem, and eisdem for the dative and ablative plurals. Okay, the next feature that I want to point out is in line 23. And we have vocales est littera quae per se syllabam facere potest, ut a syllabam primam facet in vocabulo amica, sine vocali syllaba fieri non potest. So I want to point out the verb facere, a really common verb, which means to make or to do, and you've seen that before. So a vowel is a letter which is able to make a syllable per se, all by itself, like the letter A makes the first syllable in the word amica, girlfriend. So then we have, without a vowel, a syllable, non potest fieri, is not able to be made. So facere, in the active, the infinitive is to make, facere. There's no passive, so there's no faci for this verb. Its passive system is formed by another word, which is fieri, and then which also has its own first person singular ending, just like facere is facio, fieri is fio. Fio means I become or I am made, has a passive sense. Fieri, to happen or to be made, which is what we see here. A syllable is not able to be made. Another way to do the passive of facere, besides changing it to fieri, is to use a conjunction of some sort, like efficere, to make it happen. Efficere, to effect or to make, can be turned into the passive efficator, it is made. Okay, the next feature I want to point out is in line 41. And we see here, discipulus quamque litteram cuiusque vocabuli sic legit. So a student reads each letter of each word in this way, seek. The new feature I want to point out is this this word quamque, and then also we see it here in cuiusque. And in the margin we see what actually these words come from. They come from quisque, quaique, quodque. You recognize quis, quai, and quod, or qui, quai, quod, as the relative pronoun. And here, when you combine it with que here is not an enclitic meaning and. Here it changes the meaning of the word, and it turns it into each. So instead of who, you get like quis meaning who by itself, quisque means each one. These decline in the same way that qui, quai, quod declines. So if we were going to decline, let's just take the feminine form here of quamque. If we're going, that comes from quaique. Well, if we were going to decline that, we would have quaique in the nominative, quamque in the accusative, cuiusque, as you see in the text here, in the genitive, cuique in the dative, and then qua with a long que in the ablative. And the plural would be quae, quas, quorum, quibus, quibus added to que. So quaique, quasque, quorumque, quibusque, quibusque. The next new feature I want to point out is in lines 60 to 61. And we see in those lines that Titus sic scribit. Titus writes in this way, homo hoculos et nasum habet. Marcus vero seek, but Marcus writes like this, homo oculos et nasu habet. What ancient graffiti discovered in Pompeii and Rome has shown us is that the Romans probably did not pronounce, or did not frequently pronounce the H sound, especially the initial H sound in words, which we can tell from illiterate people writing, trying to write the words on walls in ancient cities. And the absence here in Marcus's sentence of an H for a person, homo, demonstrates that. And then oculos, you see that the U disappeared in oculos, you get oculos. And we also are missing our nasum, our M at the end of nasu. M was also a letter that would drop away in an unstressed syllable. And then we see the H missing here again in the initial H. So you should just be aware that, especially in poetry, when you're reading poetry, that some of these letters will disappear, especially the M's at the end of ends of words. And you'll learn those rules when you study poetry later. In line 69, got a new feature that I want to show you, and that is in this sentence, we'll start with pulcre. Pulcre et recte scribes sexte inquit, I believe it's Magister talking, facile est tales litteras legere. So he says to Sextus, Sextus, you write beautifully and correctly. He says, it is easy to read such letters. So here in pulcre and recte, we have examples. We saw this in the last chapter, just an introduction to this. These are adverbs. And both of these adverbs, pulcre and recte, are formed from regular first and second declension adjectives. Pulcher, pulcra, pulchrum, beautiful, is the adjective from which we get pulcre, the adverb, and rectus aum, right or correct, is the adjective from which we get recte, correctly. So notice that the pulcher does not turn into pulchere, but rather it's formed on the stem of pulcra, pulcre. The next feature I want to show you is in line 73. It has more to do with these adjective and adverb forms. And in line 73 we have Titus, who says, Certe pulcherrimai sunt literae sexti, sed meae literae pulcriore sunt quam marci. So here we have him, Titus, saying, certainly my letters, or certainly the letters of Sextus are very beautiful, or are the most beautiful. Pulcherrimai being the superlative form of the adjective pulcher, meaning the most of something, or often translated as very, very much so. And in the margin we see all three forms of the adjective, the positive form, which is the dictionary form, pulcher, beautiful, the comparative form, more beautiful, pulchrior, and then the superlative form, pulcherrimus, very beautiful or the most beautiful. So beautiful, more beautiful or rather beautiful, and the most beautiful. So if we were going to compare this to altus, for example, which is a regular first and second declension adjective, we would have pulcher and altus, beautiful and tall, pulchrior and altior, more beautiful and taller, and pulcherrimus compared to altissimus. So we see that superlatives will end either in erimus if it's an er adjective like pulcher, or in issimus if it's your normal usaum adjective like altusaum. In line 79, go there with me, you will see an example of how we take an adverb, like we saw above, foide, or we saw pulchre, beautifully, and recte, correctly. In line 79 we see this sentence, tu tite, neque pulchrius, neque foidius scribes quam Marcus. You, Titus, neither write more beautifully, nor in a more ugly way than Marcus does. So here we have the comparatives, the comparative adverbs from pulcher and foidus. So pulcher being beautiful, the adverb form being pulchre, beautifully. But just like adjectives, adverbs also can have comparative forms. So more beautifully is pulchrius, and the same thing with foidus. Foide means ugly, or in an ugly way. And then the comparative of foide, which is foidius, in a more ugly way. So if we're going to look these up in the dictionary, pulchrius and foidius, we would look up pulchrius under pulchre, beautifully, the adverb, and we look up foidius under foide, in an ugly way. If we were going to make these into superlatives, they're formed, again, off of their adjective forms. So the adjective superlative of pulchrius, we just saw in the margin, was pulcherrimus. So the adverb form adds the long e, and so we end up with pulcherrime. And foidius, foide is the positive form, the superlative form of this adjective is foidissimus, very ugly. And so the superlative in the most ugly way, or in the very ugly way, is foidissime, with a long e on the end. So we're going to see that, an example of that, in line 85, where we have the sentence, comparate cum sexto, qui rectissime et pulcherrime scribet. Compare yourself with Sextus, who is writing very correctly and very beautifully, or who writes the most correctly and the most beautifully. So here we see rectissime from the positive adverb recte, correctly, rectius, more correctly, and then the superlative here, the most correctly or very correctly, rectissime. And then pulcherrime, coming from pulchre, beautifully, comparative, pulchrius, more beautifully, and pulcherrime, the most beautifully. So now we see that our adverbs, our adverb superlatives are going to be in the two forms of issime and erime, just like the adjectives were issimusaum and erimusaum. In line 102, we always have to have our exceptions. And in line 102, we see one of the exceptions to the rule, and that is with this adjective facilis. Facilis, which means easy, it's the adjective form, facilis. Facilis in masculine and feminine, and facile neuter. In the comparative adjective, we get facilior, more easy, or easier, and then facilimus, the most easy or the easiest. And so here in this sentence we see nullum rectum est vocabulum praeter unum et, atque id vocabulum est frequentissimum et facilimum. So the teacher is saying there's nothing right, there is no correct word except for one, and that word is the most common and the easiest word. So facilimum, the easiest modifying vocabulum, also frequentissimum, the most and very common and very easy. Okay, the next feature that I want to point out is in line 106. And here we have, actually start on line 105, tum vero, nec solum inquit prave et turpiter, sed etiam nimis leviter scribis. But then he says, not only do you write incorrectly and in an ugly way, but you even write too lightly. Nimis leviter. Here's another way that adverbs are formed. The usa adjectives and the er adjectives like pulcher, pulcra, pulcrum, those are first and second declension adjectives, and they form their adverbs with a long e. So pulchre and recte, for example, or foide in an ugly way. The third declension adjectives like levis, which means light, change their form. They don't add a long e. So levis doesn't become lewe. It adds an iter. So leviter means lightly. So the adjective form from which leviter is formed is lewis, which means light, and it's adverb form. So this is the positive adverb. This is how you would find it in the dictionary: lightly, leviter. And then if we were going to make this comparative, to say more lightly, it would become regular, like rectus, correct, rectius, more correctly. Leviter becomes levius, more lightly, and then the most lightly would be levissime. In line 118 through 126, we see examples of adverbial numbers, the number adverbs, which we'll go through here. I'll read through this section. Sume tabulam tuam et scribe ha litteram decies. Marcus decies ha scribit. Ha 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 ha. Tu magister et u sexie scribere iubet, et Marcus qui eandem litteram totie scribere non vult u scribit. Quoties Marcus u scribit, Marcus ut piger discipulus quater tantum u scribit. So I'll just go through that section real quickly with you. The teacher says, pick up your writing tablet and write the letter H 10 times, decies. We see in the margin that this is the numeral adverb from decem. We add eas on the end to form 10 times from decem. And then Marcus writes H 10 times. H, 10 times. Then the teacher orders him to write the letter V 6 times, sexies. And we see that that comes from sex, the number 6. And Marcus, who does not want, non vult, scribere, does not want to write eandem litteram, the same letter, so many times, toties, he writes V, only 4 times. Quoties. How many times does Marcus write V? Marcus, like a lazy student, only writes V quater 4 times. So we see in the margin 4 times. So the way that we say our adverbial numbers from 1 time to 10 times, from once to 10, from once to the 10th time, 10 times is semel, bis, ter, quater, quinquies, sexies, septies, octies, novies, decies. So you should memorize those adverbial numbers that are pretty easy to remember in context because they all have some form of eas or the original number, like quater for quatuor, ter, you can remember tres or tria or tertium, the third. Bis and semel don't really look like what the numbers they come from. They don't look like unus or duo or primus and secundus. So those two you may want to spend a little more time on. Okay, the last feature in this text that I want to point out is in line 128. And we have where tum titus qui duas litteras de esse videt sic incipit magister Marcus bis cum Marcus stilum durum in partem corporis eius mollissimam premit. So then Titus, who sees that there are 2 letters missing, de esse, there are 2 letters missing, thus begins, teacher, Marcus twice, cum. This cum here is, its syntax is to show a sudden occurrence. When at that very moment, when suddenly, you might translate this cum, when suddenly Marcus presses his pencil, his hard pencil, into the softest part of Titus's body. So basically he pokes him in the butt with his pencil to shut him up because he was about to rat out Marcus for being lazy. Okay, so those are the new features for chapter 18. Hope you enjoy this chapter.